Picture this, bases loaded, Dodger Stadium shaking, 50,000 people on their feet. One man steps into the box and in less than a second the game is over. Not because he got lucky, not because the pitcher had a bad night, but because Shohei Ohtani had already decided what he was going to do before most people in that stadium had even processed the pitch was released. That grand slam wasn't a moment. It was the product of a system, a standard, that the Los Angeles Dodgers have been quietly building into something that the rest of baseball has no immediate answer for. But here's what almost nobody is talking about. The grand slam was the headline. The real story started long before that ball left the yard. Before we break down that swing, we need to talk about the on-base streak, because this is where the actual story lives. Getting on base consistently in Major League Baseball is genuinely one of the hardest things a human being can do in professional sport. You are facing pitchers who have spent their entire lives, from little league fields to college programs to minor league development systems, learning how to prevent exactly that outcome. Their entire professional purpose is to get you out, and they are very, very good at it. Ohtani's on-base streak entering this game was the kind of number that makes opposing pitching coaches stop mid-sentence during their pregame meetings and stare at the data one more time, as if looking at it again will somehow make it feel less impossible. It didn't. And if you're watching this channel for the first time, Baseball Daily is where we break down exactly this kind of story. We are pushing toward our first 500 subscribers, and if real baseball analysis like this is what you're after, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share this video with anyone who actually watches the game with their brain turned on. Now back to that streak. What makes Ohtani's on-base run extraordinary is not just its length, it is its consistency across context. He has been getting on base against lefties and righties, against power pitchers and crafty veterans, in pitcher-friendly parks and hitter-friendly ones, in high-leverage situations with the game on the line, and in low-leverage situations where lesser players mentally check out. He doesn't check out, he never checks out. That is the most defining characteristic of his entire approach, an absolute refusal to treat any plate appearance as less important than any other. Every at-bat is prepared for with the same level of seriousness. Every pitcher is studied with the same level of detail. Every pitch sequence is processed with the same level of focus. That is not a natural gift. That is a constructed discipline, and it is what produced one of the most remarkable on-base streaks the sport has seen in recent memory. Now let's talk about the moment itself. The bases were loaded. The Dodgers needed runs not just for the lead, but for the kind of breathing room that changes how a pitching staff manages the rest of a game. One run gives you something to protect. 3 or 4 runs give you the ability to attack. Ohtani stepped to the plate carrying everything. The streak, the moment, the weight of 50,000 people in that stadium and millions more watching at home who understood exactly what was at stake. And here is what separates Ohtani from almost every other hitter who has ever stood in that situation. He wasn't thinking about the moment, he was thinking about the pitch. There is a fundamental difference between those two things that separates good hitters from historically great ones. Most hitters, when the bases are loaded and the game hangs in the balance, feel the weight of the situation pressing down on their mechanics. Their hands tighten slightly, their load timing shifts, their eye level rises just a fraction away from the ball and toward the consequences of missing it. Ohtani has trained himself, through years of obsessive preparation, through a mental discipline that those around him describe as almost unsettling in its completeness, to narrow his entire consciousness down to one thing in that moment. The ball coming out of the pitcher's hand. Nothing else exists, not the crowd, not the score, not the streak, just the ball, the zone, and the decision that has to be made in a fraction of a second. The pitch came, a fastball that caught slightly too much of the plate. The kind of mistake pitchers make when the pressure of the situation affects their execution just as much as it affects hitters. The decision was already made before most people in the stadium had fully processed the release. The swing was not violent, it was not desperate, it was simply correct, and the ball traveled to a place where no outfielder on earth could have reached it. Grand slam, Dodgers lead, stadium erupting. But a great individual moment only matters if what comes next holds it up. Yoshinobu Yamamoto took the mound with the kind of quiet intensity that has become his signature in a Dodgers uniform. If Ohtani represents the offensive standard this team has set for itself, Yamamoto represents the pitching standard. And on this night, he was absolutely relentless in defending the lead his teammate had just provided. Elite pitching is not about raw velocity. It is not simply about movement, though Yamamoto's pitches moved with the kind of precision hitters describe as genuinely disorienting. It is about sequencing, the chess match that a great pitcher plays across 9 innings, always thinking multiple batters ahead, setting up pitches in the second inning that will create the strikeout in the 6th. Inning after inning, Yamamoto worked through the opposing lineup with the methodical efficiency of someone who had studied this specific group of hitters extensively, and arrived at the ballpark with a clear, detailed plan, executing it pitch by pitch. The opposing batters were not simply getting out. They were getting out in the exact ways Yamamoto had designed for them to get out. There is a significant difference between a result and a demonstration of complete mastery. When Yamamoto recorded the final out, the win column went up by 1, but what he delivered was something larger than a single victory. He proved again that the Dodgers pitching can match the standard their offense sets. Now zoom out. Winning consecutive games in Major League Baseball requires a specific kind of organizational alignment that most teams achieve only briefly, if at all, during a full season. Four elements have to synchronize: starting, pitching, bullpen, offense, and defense, consistently enough that when one area struggles on a given night, another area compensates. During this Dodgers winning streak, different elements have carried the load on different nights. There have been nights where the offense carried the pitching, nights where the pitching carried the offense, nights where the bullpen was asked to do more than anyone would have preferred and delivered. What has not happened, the defining characteristic of this entire run, is a night where multiple elements failed simultaneously. That is not an accident. That is the product of organizational depth, roster construction, and a clubhouse culture that refuses to allow one bad performance to become two. The Grand Slam will be the clip that gets replayed. Ohtani's name will be in the headlines. The highlights will dominate social media timelines and sports broadcasts through the night and into the following morning. But the on-base streak that loaded the bases for that Grand Slam was built at bat, day by day, through a level of preparation and focus that the highlight reel never captures. Yamamoto's win, the innings pitched, the pitches sequenced, the batters retired in exactly the ways the game plan required, will fade from public memory far faster than the Grand Slam, even though one could not have mattered without the other. This is the real story of what the Dodgers are building right now. Not just spectacular individual moments, not just one transcendent player doing transcendent things. A team that has internalized the same standard. That shows up every night with the same preparation. That refuses to allow the ordinary pressures of a long baseball season to lower the level at which they compete. That is not a highlight. That is a habit. And habits, when they are built this deeply into a team's identity, are very, very hard to break. The question that now hangs over the rest of this 2024 season is a simple one. Is there a single team in baseball with the roster depth, the pitching quality, and the organizational culture required to match what the Dodgers are doing right now? Think carefully before you answer, because the evidence on the field keeps pointing in one direction. Drop your answer in the comments. Which team do you think can genuinely challenge the Dodgers this season, and why? Real answers only. This is a baseball channel. We read them all. If you enjoy real baseball content and breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next on Baseball Daily. We are closing in on 500 subscribers. Subscribe, share this video with a friend who knows the game, and leave a comment below. The Dodgers conversation isn't over, not even close.